Welcome back, One Wrestling NXT fans. This is Bill Schuyler, and the show has returned because, as a man once said, no matter what happens, the show must go on, and regardless of situations that have occurred over the past months, it's time. And it's time for the show to get back on schedule, and that's where we are. Right now, I want to give a special shout out to my wrestling guru, Bill Apter at Apter One Wrestling. Had my back from the beginning till now, giving me the opportunity to continue to bring you the best in professional wrestling, along with my tag team partners, Big Ray, El Jefe Mero Mero of the Big Ray Show, Andre _Corbeil of the Can-Am Wrestling Show, Billy Ray Valentine, my old school tag team partner, the Prince of the Podcast, the PW Hustle on Podbean and iTunes. Let's get down to business. If you've been watching the WWE as of late, and I'm talking about Raw, I'm talking SmackDown, I'm talking Superstars, I'm talking the Royal Rumble, I would say in all cases you've probably been a little dissatisfied, to say the least. The only program that you can watch where you will not be disgruntled, where you would walk away happy and enthralled that you saw a wrestling program, is right here on NXT. The future is now, and NXT stands head and shoulders above anything and everything that the WWE is putting out as a product with the network. You don't belong to the network. I'm not a shill for the WWE. I don't get paid by them. $9.99 is worth it just for the NXT show alone, along with the Super Show that they have that comes out every couple of months, let alone the entire library of the WWE, WCW, ECW, the territories, special events, anything you could think of. It's worth the $9.99. Get it just to enjoy the spectacular old school style of professional wrestling that NXT brings to you each and every week, courtesy of one Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. Whatever's going on behind the scenes between Vince McMahon and his inner circle that run Raw, they and NXT do not sit down at the same table. They do not create nor see the same vision for the company. That's a story for another day. We're here to talk about NXT, and we're going to jump right into it. Starting back at episode 259 on January 15th, 2015, we opened up with Tyson Kidd versus Finn Balor. Finn Balor and Tyson Kidd took the house down from bell to bell, corner to corner, in and out of the ring. Both of these men took it to the top of the food chain in NXT, and gold is simply a question of not when, not a question of if. It's just a question of how soon it's going to be before they have it around their waists. They are laying it on the line, and anybody and everybody on that main roster on Raw and SmackDown had better be watching the tapes of these guys, studying them, seeing what is going on at Full Sail University, because if not, these two gentlemen, along with a score of others, are going to make their way up north. And a lot of guys who are up there comfortable in their sad, pathetic little mid-card lifestyles of phoning in their matches each and every week are going to find themselves either A, out of a job, future endeavored, or they're going to be down in NXT learning the business all over again. We had here that Baylor pinned Tyson Kidd at the 8-minute mark in a match of just pure fire and fury. And these guys are pretty much the cream of the crop in NXT. They were outstanding in the indies as far as Finn Balor as Prince Devitt. Tyson Kidd has been outstanding from the first moment he stepped foot in the WWE out of the dungeons of Calgary, and it's time that he gets his due. You're going to find yourselves here with Kidd and Balor battling for the Intercontinental, the U.S. title, and eventually the WWE World Heavyweight title, because the NXT title is something they're going to get, they're going to grab, they're going to move forward, and they're going to be going for the gusto and the big enchilada, the brass ring, as Vince McMahon likes to call it. We got some great replays of Hideo Itami and Baylor and Flair and Banks from Takeover Revolution, and the hype began between Baron Corbin and Bull Dempsey, the kings of the squash matches and the kings of the squash promos. These guys need a lot of work when it comes to promos. These guys have not put on a match longer than 3 minutes from the second they've got in the company. They want to move these guys on. If they want these guys to be at that level of a Biggie Langston, of a Rusev, of a Mark Henry, that big House of Pain killer superstars, they gotta add some more meat to the mix. And having these little squash matches between themselves and jabronis are not going to get the job done. We get this so-so promo talking about how he came so close to having Corbin, but missed out on it, and his plans for the Lone Wolf, and we went to break. Next, we got Corbin versus Dempsey, with Bull taking control from Jump Street. Corbin took it back with total control, with Bull missing a flying headbutt. Corbin struck with the end of the day's finisher, and with the 1-2-3 with Fist and Fury that ended in under 2 minutes, defeated Bull Dempsey. I myself would see in tagging these two gentlemen up together, letting them work it out and become a monster tag team, since they don't quite have what it takes to be single stars. Let them work together with a good old school manager, maybe somebody like Animal, or any more of the plethora of guys in the Legends area of the WWE, Kevin Nash, somebody that can cultivate these big men and make them into the heel superstar monsters that the WWE apparently want them to be. We then get a women's tag team match with Charlotte Flair and Natalya going up against Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch. And what a tag team Natty and Charlotte made, taking it to the limit against the BAE. The heels went back and forth with the faces, and Sasha wound up pinning Charlotte Flair with a handful of tights. The match time ending at 5 minutes and 30 seconds. They're giving these girls a little more time each and every week. Charlotte Flair is one who is not going to be down here in NXT for long. Same for Sasha Banks. These two girls are someone that the divas up top had better look out for, because these girls don't just look pretty. They wrestle in the ring and they take care of business from bell to bell, from corner to corner, as they say. They put on a slobber knocker of a match each and every week. They can technical wrestle, they can brawl, they do it all. Charlotte Flair will be, in my opinion, by WrestleMania, the Divas and or Women's Champion for the WWE's main roster. The heels, again, are quite outstanding. Becky Lynch has turned into a awesome heel. Sasha Banks, niece of one Snoop Dogg, is turning out to be quite the impressive female wrestler. And with that match, we then came upon our main event. It has arrived. Adrian Neville going up against the NXT champion Sami Zayn. We were treated to a wrestling clinic between two uber faces, two guys who took this match to the limit. They put on a wrestling show of the likes that has not been seen on WWE television in a decade. These guys are putting on matches the likes of Steamboat and Flair and Savage and DiBiase. Guys that could just do it all in the ring. If they had the brawl, they would brawl and fist and fight and kick and do what they had to do. And if they had to wrestle and do it scientific and take it all across the ring, doing the dance, they could do that as well. And on top of that, they know how to work the microphone. They got the whole package, and they are ready for the big time. Adrian Neville, a guy who for years wrestled under a mask, and it was questionable whether he would be able to pull off being a superstar in the WWE without that mask. And I gotta hand it to him. Sami Zayn, without the mask, has outdone himself as El Generico. He is over with the fans. He is one of the most realistic, generic, believable faces in the business in years. The fans love this guy. His music hits, and the fans are on their feet. The Ole chants begin, and it is just off the charts from beginning to end. And Adrian Neville, you get no better. He's one of the greatest aerial wrestlers in the business. The man that gravity forgot. Some guys like to say that he's a little too small for a big man's business, and I tell you, that's a bunch of hooey. When you got guys of the likes of a CM Punk, of a Daniel Bryan, you had guys like Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, guys who say they're too small, or guys like Vinnie Mac and other big wrestlers like Kevin Nash and his other guys. I like to refer to them as the vanilla midgets, because they were jealous over the amount of ability that they could put forth in a match and take and do a match from anywhere from 5 minutes to 60 minutes and not be winded and aired out and not just laying on each other. These guys wrestled and knocked it out all night long. So with that there, you had one of the best matches I've seen this year. Neville unable to take back the title from Sami Zayn, and you just had a main roster that's just going to have to contend with two more guys that are ready to take the main roster by storm. I mean, this was one hell of a match that clocked in at 11 minutes, and in that 11 minutes it seemed like this match went on for easily 20 minutes. They did so much work in that 11 minutes, and not a spot fest, not rushed. It was poetry in the ring. These guys just have magic between them, and it's just a pleasure and magical to watch two guys actually know their craft and wrestle and take it to the limit every time they get in the ring. Sami Zayn as the NXT champion, I see, should be champion for a long time. The question is one Kevin Owens going to allow him to remain champion? Are they going to push Sami Zayn up to that main roster? I don't think it's time yet. I think it's a little early. I'd like to see NXT become a stronger unit and have a more powerful roster down there before they start just dropping these guys away and not having anyone to fill their shoes and build them up. What I want to see, and I cannot wait to, is eventually to see a match between guys like Neville, Zayn, Baylor, Itami, Cesaro, Kid. These guys doing 2 out of 3 fall matches, Iron Man matches, or an old school Broadway type of match, which I doubt most of the main roster doesn't have a clue what a Broadway match even is and wouldn't be able to do it. But Triple H and NXT, I think they have the guts to go at it full-blown old school and push to the limit to take it old school with a new age look and polish it right and make it entertaining for this generation to not just enjoy, but to just to fall in love with and demand to see more and more of, and see less and less of these garbage matches of guys just coming out and doing 2-minute squash matches, or just hanging on each other, out of breath, can't breathe. You know what I'm talking about. Those days are done. The wrestlers that are out there in the industry today are complete and utter athletes of Olympic type style, and these are the guys that they're cultivating in NXT. And they got guys down there that don't look like they should be able to do moves like that, and they got guys that do. They got guys that are small that are able to, in my opinion, would knock the living stuffing out of a Kevin Nash or a Big Show or any of the big guys in the past, that they would be able to do the Chris Benoits, the Eddie Guerreros, the Rey Mysterios. You got guys like Kalisto down there now. So many guys, so much talent on that NXT locker room. And that's just the guys. The girls are a whole other animal. They completely and utterly devastate the Divas division that exists up on the main roster right now, with the exception of Paige and Natalya. I don't see any females up there that can hold a light to any of the women down in NXT. We then had some replays airing, and Sami Zayn was celebrating, and Kevin Owens came up behind the champ yet again, nailing him with a pop-up powerbomb, leaving Sami laid out as Owens calmly just walked away from the ring. And after doing so, he kicked the title, striking Sami in the head, and we faded to black. And such was the end of episode 259, January 15th, 2015. We then come up to our next episode, 260, 121-15. We open up with the general manager, William Regal, announcing that the next Takeover special would take place on February 11th, 2015, with a number one contenders tournament leading up to the main event for who would be going up against the NXT champion. Our first match opens up with Dillinger walking to the ring for a non-title match against Sami Zayn. Zayn's music hits, and to a massive pop and a chorus of olays, but Zayn came in like a madman, storming the ring and completely destroyed Dillinger, and then called out Kevin Owens. And Regal interrupted and tried to calm Zayn down and told him that nobody comes in and bullies their way through to get a title shot without earning it. And this was not going to occur under his watch. And Zayn said he didn't care about titles. He wanted Owens in a match, and he wanted him right now. Regal seemed to make Sami look just really out of control, and he eventually calmed him down, and this segment made Zayn look no longer the underdog, the somewhat weak, kind of carefree kind of guy. He came out looking strong and far from that underdog star that he's been known for since appearing in NXT. And WWE fans who have never seen El Generico and Kevin Steen in the wars that they've had in the indies are in for one hell of an experience. As you see Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens as they take themselves through ladder matches, table matches, 2 out of 3 falls, falls count anywhere, you name it. These guys do any match out there and tear it up. And these guys know each other like the best friends that they truly are. They travel the roads together, up and down the highways, old school style in the indies, and these guys are going to put on performances that are going to be the matches talked about for years for this generation of wrestlers, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Now, Regal again tells them that nobody's getting that title shot without going through it the proper way, but he placates Sami by giving him a non-title match at the NXT Takeover show. And again, this made Sami seem to be calmed, happy to see that he's going to get his hands on Owens for the backstabbing that he's done. We then have our next match, which is a tournament match of Finn Balor going up against former Intercontinental Champion Curtis Axel, as we go into a tournament match where Axel put on a good show, but, Curtis Axel is not his father, and it's unfortunate, and I think he needs a long run down here in NXT to cultivate his craft. He was pushed far too soon and given the Intercontinental title, but that's a story for another day as well. Baylor takes the win, 1, 2, 3, and he is on his way heading for the tournament and his shot at the NXT Gold. We then had Dempsey and Corbin, two, again, of the worst promo guys in the company, who continue to kill all interest in their 2 to 3 minute squash matches. And unfortunately, these two guys are going to face each other next week in a tournament match. I have no desire to see these two behemoths beat the stuffing out of each other for 60 seconds, because there's no way on God's green earth, in my opinion, that these guys get anywhere near the NXT title. But that's just my opinion, and I digress. Next up, we have a women's match. We have Charlotte Flair versus Sasha Banks, and they tear up the arena, showing the Divas that, again, they had better get their game up. Becky Lynch came in attacking Charlotte Flair, causing the DQ for Sasha, and both heels then took to jumping Charlotte and putting the boots to her until Bayley came out for the save. Bayley holds the NXT Women's title, looking at it, just really gripping it hard, and just seemed to be enamored by the title. And Charlotte just tells her, Bayley, give me my belt. And she had to repeat herself, and she then snatched the title away from Bayley, and Bayley hit her from that belly to Bayley suplex, putting Charlotte down. And surprisingly, the crowd popped for Bayley. William Regal came out and announced that Flair would defend her title at TakeOver, not in a one-on-one match, but in a fatal four-way against Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, and Bayley. The women did not seem overly joyed except for Bayley. Charlotte seemed cool with the idea. Becky and Sasha, cracks are already developing between the two besties, as we expect that this would occur. We then have Murphy and Blake going up against my now most hated tag team in NXT, the Vaudevillians, in a number one contenders match. Nothing to write home about here, as usual with the Vaudevillians. They just don't seem to be destined for anything more than middle of the road enhancement jobber material here, just in NXT, let alone eventually I guess they'll make it to the main roster and be able to get their clocks cleaned up there. But the Vaudevillians just don't have it. I don't like their look. I don't like their style in the ring. Murphy and Blake continue to grow on me. I like them more and more each and every week. And they just came in and destroyed the Vaudevillians and are now the number one contenders for the Lucha Dragons NXT Tag Team title straps. We have another first round tournament match of Hideo Itami going up against Prince Pretty himself, Tyler Breeze, as the tourneys continue, and Itami and Breeze go to town, taking it to the line. The crowd continues to beg for Hideo, as he was taking advantage and beating down on Prince Pretty to lay him out with the GTS. But Hideo still refuses to unleash the move that he gave CM Punk, and he gained his victory over Breeze with the 1-2-3, and Hideo Itami takes his move towards NXT Gold. We now go into our last episode of the week for this week here on the 28th. We open up with Adrian Neville versus Tyson Kidd in a tournament match, with Neville defeating Tyson Kidd via the Red Arrow. No doubt in my mind, as much as I like Tyson Kidd, Adrian Neville is just supernatural in the ring. And it's going to be quite a tournament as we get down to the nitty-gritty between Baylor, Neville, Itami. It's really going to be quite the exciting matches over the next couple weeks leading up to Takeover. We then get Baron Corbin and Bull Dempsey, the kings of the squash match, leaving us with Dempsey utterly destroyed by Corbin in their tournament match, and over as quick as it started. And again, a match I could care less for. Obviously, the winner here will be a loser next week, without any doubt in my mind. Charlotte and Bayley versus Sasha and Becky began and then was stopped as Flair and Bayley began attacking and fighting each other, going at it all over the ring. They had to stop the match as it just was out of control. These two women have quickly gone from being somewhat friendly and helping each other out to utter hatred between themselves. But I guess when it comes to the gold and when it comes to a Flair, nobody stands between a Flair and the gold. And Charlotte is definitely her father's daughter when it comes to that. Finally, the match I was waiting for. The NXT tag titles were up for grabs. The Lucha Dragons defending against Wesley Blake and Buddy Murphy. Finally, a worthy tag team of two young up-and-coming superstars who just unleashed a ferocity against the Lucha Dragons, a team that I love. The Lucha Dragons are one of the best tag teams in the WWE right now, but it's nice to see a tag team of these two guys, of Blake and Murphy, who are a little bit of a throwback to old school, just a good, solid tag team of guys that just want to go in there and knock teeth out and just fight and do what they got to do. Not that they can't do the high flying, not that they can't do the scientific. They do have it all, and I expect big things from them, and they proved it here tonight by defeating the Lucha Dragons and becoming the new NXT Tag Team Champions of the world. Man, I have to tell you here, I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the Aussie Wesley Blake, the most gnarly Aussie since Chopper Reed and Max Rockatowski. And if you don't know who that is, look it up on Google. One's a real guy, one guy's from the movies. Either way, little fun piece of nostalgia for you. And his partner, Buddy Murphy, who is funk approved. That's right. He was trained by the Funks down in Amarillo, Texas, and he has shown that he is once again Funk U graduate and approved and ready to show himself as a tag team champion and hopefully a future singles champion down the road. We end the show with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens contract signing for TakeOver. Regal has changed his mind, and now the match will be for the NXT title. That's right, Sami Zayn will defend the title against Kevin Owens at TakeOver. The fans who have been displeased with Raw, who were in utter disdain over the Royal Rumble and the directions being made there and with SmackDown, and who have never witnessed NXT, and especially an NXT TakeOver event, I urge you, do not miss this wrestling extravaganza. The future is now. And if I am correct, and I believe I am, this month the WWE is offering a free trial for NXT. That's right, not $9.99, $000 for a 1 month trial subscription. So you'll have the opportunity to see NXT and TakeOver for free, along with the pay-per-view that the WWE is putting out this week. And I'm also hearing, a little bird is telling me, because they've been gone for some time, Big Cass, Carmella, and Enzo Amore are on their way back to NXT, and we expect to see them sometime early in the month of February. With that, I am the show, Bill Schuyler. You can reach me on Twitter at YouGotTheShow. Apter One Wrestling. Always follow One Wrestling with Bill Apter. Again, my tag partners, Big Ray of Big Ray's Show, Billy Ray Valentine, Andre_Corbeil. Follow all of our shows each and every week. The Can-Am Wrestling Show, our reviews for Impact, reviews for pay-per-views, previews, news coming down the pike. Bill Apter always has the best in interviews with superstars in the wrestling industry, from guys in the past up into current superstars. And I just gotta tell you and urge you, don't lose the faith in wrestling. This is the year 2015. Big changes are coming, and the WWE main roster has got no choice but to change with the times, or they're going to have the times roll over them. Between their own NXT product, between Ring of Honor, between Impact Wrestling and their new cable production company that is bankrolling them and pushing them across the globe, between New Japan Pro Wrestling, Global Force Wrestling, AAA, Lucha Underground, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, Pro Wrestling Syndicate here on the East Coast in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia area. Friends, wrestling is on fire, and with that, as the man says every time you talk to him down the road, Bill Apter, I'll see you at the matches, and for you guys, you'll see me, the show. I'll catch you down the road.